All right, let's get you a modcast on this Tuesday. Hope everybody enjoyed the Super Bowl. 3 former Longhorns getting rings, including the punter, as Tom Herman used to call him. We hope you guys are doing well. Jason Sukamel, Anwar Richardson, Alex Dunlap, the mods alongside. I'm Chad Hastings. We're going to get as much information as we can to you. Today, it's kind of a breaking something down for the 2026 season. And I'll be honest, the inspiration kind of started with Anwar on Sunday in the pulpit, because there was a discussion about Sark and the seat, and is it a hot seat or is it a different kind of seat in 2026? So I want to get the fellas' thoughts on kind of how they're framing the season as we sit here in February. And Anwar, I'll start with you because I thought it was an interesting point. You didn't describe the seat for Sark as hot, but I thought your description of it was pretty accurate.
Well, I didn't. No. Let's backtrack.
Yeah.
Let's get to a little background here. There was an article written by Kirk Bowles last week about Sark being in the hot seat, right? So what I said was he's not in the hot seat. But I said, but there are expectations that will be placed upon him this year as he goes into, year 6? As the head coach here at Texas. And so my thing is there are expectations of a level of success that he's going to be expected to achieve because of the tools that have been given to him through the transfer portal, the players that are highly ranked that he got through the recruiting ranks, and because this team took a step back in 2025, no matter how you spin it, no matter how much you rationalize it, you can't go from the semifinals for 2 straight years to the Citrus Bowl and act like nothing happened. So there becomes an expectation. And look, Jason's been around here long enough. And you remember those Mac Brown years when you would have 10-win seasons and everybody would be pissed off about that and think like, that's it? So there comes a point where, I think this becomes a huge year. And then, when you start looking at 2027, and that shapes up to be a massive rebuild for this program that none of us even wanted to talk about or discuss. But when you look at all the guys that they're going to lose off of this 2026 season, breaking in a new quarterback, offensive line, running backs, wide receivers, you go down the list. So it's more about the expectations of Sark this year and what do you expect of him. More so than the hot seat. It would take 5 and 7 for there to be like some sort of hot seat, right? It'd be something catastrophic. But if we're talking about a 9-3 team that misses the playoffs for 2 straight years, there are uncomfortable conversations to be had.
Yeah, I thought your description of the pressure of the seat was appropriate. That job just brings with it a certain amount of, there's tension, there's pressure. And then Jason, this year specifically, just brings so many elements together for what 2026 could be, might be. Here's another reason that I brought the discussion up, guys. Yesterday on the 12 o'clock show, just kind of it was like almost like a throwaway chat at the end. And somebody throws in, if he doesn't win the national championship, fire him and move on. And I was just like, wait, whoa, hold on, stop. What? But, Jason, I've been told feelings are valid. So I thought, man, maybe there are some Texas fans out there with that type of mindset. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to get multiple opinions on it and kind of where everybody's brain is on what he's facing this year.
Well, that chat comment is silliness to me. But, I'm in kind of lockstep with where Anwar's position is. Is he in the hot seat, on the hot seat? No, absolutely not. Is there a lot of pressure this year? You're damn right there is. I mean, as Anwar said, last year, I'm not going to say it was disappointing. That's a strong word, right? It's like, but if you talk about where preseason expectations were, and then you don't even make the college football playoff, much less get back to the semifinals, like Anwar said, they'd done 2 years previously. You were the number 1 team in the country. You didn't live up to expectations. And now, remember, guys, this time last year, what was everybody saying? It was like, well, 2025 is not the year. 2026 is the year. Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, here we are. It's 2026. Arch's got that experience under his belt. You went out and spent heavily in the portal because you think this is the year. Now, am I saying they've got to go out and win a national championship or Sark's on the hot seat? No, that's crazy talk. I mean, injuries happen, different things happen. The ball doesn't bounce your way. Kicker misses a kick. But do they need to kind of take a step forward from what 2025 was? Absolutely. And they're going to have to do that, Chad, with a much more difficult schedule. Or, well, I think it's going to be a much more difficult schedule. Mm-hmm. Sometimes those schedules in October don't always feel like they do in February. Okay. So, but it looks like it's going to be a really difficult schedule, but the pieces are there. So yeah, I don't think Sark's on the hot seat. I think this is a pressure packed year though. If they have another couple missteps where maybe they don't make the college football playoffs for the second consecutive year, I don't even know if that puts him on the hot seat, but you're going to have some people talking. They're going to be talking pretty loudly.
Yeah, it's just going to be a wild discussion here, depending on what happens. By the way, shout out to Daly and Black, the sponsor of the Modcast each and every week. If you need lawyers that are on your side, Daly and Black are the ones you need to check out. Daly is D-A-L-Y, and Black, there's your QR code right there. The logo stays up for you the whole show in case you need Daly and Black. Big shout out to them. Yeah, and you said pressure packed. That's just there's so many layers to this. And one of the things, Alex, I've been thinking about, we always can talk about a ceiling for the team. I think we all know what the ceiling is. You're holding up the trophy. And then there's always a discussion. I think we may have had it on a modcast fairly recently about maybe the bar. People like to throw that out about, hey, maybe it's semifinals or maybe it's the playoffs and something else. But I've also been thinking about, and Anwar kind of got to it a second ago, the floor for this team, the floor for Sark. Above which it's a mark in your head that if slightly above it, he's probably still the coach in 2027. You're not going to be thrilled, but you can make an argument he's still the coach. But below the floor, you're thinking, oh, man, even CDC is going to have to take a look. Anwar threw out 5 and 7. For you, Anwar, is that kind of where you define the – I'd put it a little higher than that. But
me or Alex? You were talking to Alex.
So, but when since you mentioned 5 and 7, I just wanted you to explain kind of, was 5 and 7 for you the building's on fire, holy crap? Or if I asked you to set
what else is it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that would be for me.
You've been around here, Chad.
So, but how far up would you go to say this is the floor? Like, is 9 and 3 like a floor?
No. Your floor is your floor. Probably 8 and 4. I mean, like if you're talking about the floor where he doesn't get fired, right? 8 and 4, and you can excuse it away because of injuries. Sure, anything below that. I think everything's on the table at that point. You're talking 7 and 5, 6 and 6, 5 and 7. Yeah, I mean 5 and 7, of course. Right. It is catastrophic with this kind of roster. That is insurmountable at that point. I don't think 9 and 3. I mean, 9 and 3 is doable, but I think 9 and 3 starts putting you in that kind of like that James Franklin-ish kind of territory where it's like, well, you're getting the job done, but could it be better? Like that it gets that kind of weirdish kind of conversation. But I think the expectation is. What you can't have is 4 years of Arch Manning, 2 years of him as a starter, and never go to the playoffs.
Yeah, that'd be rough.
You can't have that on your tombstone, right? So at the end of the day, you have to have something to show for it, and not just because of Arch, but you started adding in how much this roster is costing, whether it's, again, transfer portal guys, 5-star guys, 4-star guys. Like that's a lot of money being poured in here. You have to have something to show for it. Like for all the shit that Quinn Ewers got, you can't say, well, Quinn Ewers was more successful at Texas than Arch. Like that will blow Alex. I think that will blow people's minds.
Yeah.
Onward, I was dealing with something here for a minute whenever you were kind of starting out. Did you say that? Did Kirk Bowles write a hot seat article about Sark?
Yes.
So he invoked the hot seat thing. A local media member invoked the hot seat word.
Yes.
I mean, That's one of the things, man. I responded in your column the other day. I see that isn't the biggest indicator, but and I'm not saying it means anything, but if you look back when I did the hot seat study, if you look back retrospectively at guys that got fired and what the hot seat meant, right? And this was during Charlie Strong's time, so this was probably 10 years ago, right? But the second most highly correlated thing was articles written by the local media about a coach being on the hot seat. So just something to keep in. It's like, it could be totally non sequitur, but and like I said in your column too, is that the number one thing that you're going to get fired is when the AD gives a public vote of confidence. That's when you get fired, is when the AD gives a public vote of confidence and say that this guy's going to stay on as our head coach. Mm-hmm. But anyway, besides all that stuff, I think Anwar mentioned, or Chad mentioned floor, and Anwar talked about 5 and 7, all the rest of this stuff. I think that it's like, and I'm sure you guys hit on this while I was dealing with the guy, but y'all have talked about 2027, right? Well, okay,
yeah.
So
we mentioned it.
Okay, so I mean, I'm just saying, if you thought this was a harrowing portal window, I certainly felt like it was, with all the coverage that we did and being around the computer all day and all the rest, right? It's going to be like that again in 2027, and probably a lot more, because you're probably going to lose two of your receivers, maybe 3. You're going to lose both your running backs. You're going to lose your tight end. You're going to lose your quarterback. You're going to lose your best defensive player in Colin Simmons. You're going to lose Rasheem Biles. You're going to lose Jelani McDonald. It's just a whole lot of guys to replace, man. This team is built for this season, and I think anybody who has that knowledge, you say, all right, well, so if we're now in 2027 and we're back in a rebuilding year, and we couldn't get, we fell short in 2026, the year that everybody knew you'd have to have blinders on to not know that this was the year that they've been building towards. And if, barring just unforeseen disasters as far as, injuries and things like that, you're basically gonna have to sell people on the idea that, well, sorry, we didn't quite get 2025. Things got a little bit out of hand, but whatever. But remember, we're coming off the 2 semifinal appearances. In the last 2 years, we at least won one of the conferences. It was a Big 12 conference win. It wasn't an SEC conference championship, but we got that done. Got to the Final Four twice in a row. 2025, a little bit of a slip up. 2026, we had everything all lined up, but we fell short of expectations again. And you guys know in 2027, it was always going to be a little bit of a rebuilding year. So we got to now we're talking about 2028. And what year did Sark get here? I forget now. Was it 2021?
21.
So we're going to year 6?
Year 6.
Yeah. So then you should. So now you're talking about, hey, we're going to ask for patience through year 7, and
now, real quick, Alex,
we're going to be doing it again.
Real quick, Alex, when you're saying fall short of expectations in 2026,
what I'm saying, I think falling short of expectations is not making a deep title run. Okay. And so if you were to fall short, I think the natives are going to get a little restless anyway. Right? Not fireable restless, but restless.
So, if you don't end up in the Final Four,
right? I mean, like Anwar said, I mean, the ball takes a funny bounce. The kicker misses a kick. I've always said, once you get in the dance, I think if you position yourself well, it's like, I think that there's all kinds of nuance you can draw by how you exited the tournament.
Right.
But I just think. And I think people would know. They'd be like, man, we had an awesome team. We lost only 1 game in the season, SEC champions. But gosh, we ran into the buzzsaw that was, who knew, LSU. And we just got him at just the wrong time. And, kicker misses the field goal. It's like, all right, that's how football goes. Championships don't come easy. And it's a lot about timing. But if we're saying falling short of expectations leaves the natives a little bit restless, right? What about, you talked about the floor.
Mm-hmm.
What if everything's lined up? Like I said, barring unforeseen injury disaster, you have You've addressed everything. You haven't addressed the depth on the offensive line, and that again becomes a 2027 problem. But you've addressed the starting offensive line. You've addressed, weapons for Arch Manning. You've juiced up the entire offense. You've gotten special playmakers on defense. You've addressed the holes that you've had on defense. They're geared up, man. They're ready to go. If there were to be like a season where I think that you say a floor. I think if it's like an 8-4 type season, I think anything short of that's the type of thing where fans are starting to say, like, now you're telling me now after this we're going to have, because this was when we were going to set up, and now we got to rebuild with Diabell or KJ.
I agree.
I think it's a pretty good landing spot, because Jason, I could make an argument for an 8-4 that he could survive.
I'm not saying he gets fired at 8-4, but that seat is burning hot if he goes
right.
in.
But to Anwar's point and Alex's point, below that, you tell me 7-5 and don't tell me anything else, I would almost say, hey, all bets are off. I don't know what happens then.
Yeah,
that's 7-5.
I think if it's 7, I think it's 7-5. You'd probably have a lot of infighting with the fan base. And people saying he's got to be fired, and some people saying you absolutely cannot fire.
I have that at 9-3.
You would. But at 5, I'll guarantee you there's an inexcusable loss. There's no. I can give you 4 excusable losses. I can't give you 5. For Texas fans, if it's 5, one of those losses is going to drive them nuts.
Well, there'll be multiple. Not only that, there's going to be losses against probably one of your rivals, which will also drive you nuts. At 5. So because you already got 2 wins, which is Texas State and UTSA. So I mean, then that leaves you losing, in a lot of the other ones. And I think the other tough part of this, and it's going to make Alex go, pull out those beautiful locks of hairs that he still has, is that the playoff committee has told everybody, we will not put you in unless you have 10 wins. That's it. Just bottom line. Like there's really no ifs, ands, or buts of it. We're not going to really consider you. Like, you might be in the running. It's cool, but you better have 10. And Vanderbilt had 10, and that wasn't good enough, right? But it's got to be 10. And so 9-3, the committee has been telling us for the past couple of years, and then maybe it's time for people to start listening, you're not going to make the playoffs. Just is what it is. It doesn't matter what your strength of schedule looks like. It doesn't matter. And again, I joke, but serious. Like, John Bianco's best work probably was putting out all those stats every single day, right around November and December. And at the end of the day, the committee was a shoulder shrug. Steve Sarkeesian had press conferences kind of making the case, and the committee shoulder shrugged it, right? So what makes it even tougher is that when you look at Ohio State and then you look at a 9-game SEC schedule, it's a tough road. It's a tough sledding. But the expectations are high, where there's a lot of things that are stacked up against them. So, it makes that conversation even tougher for Sark. It's cool that CDC had his town hall meeting, and we're going to keep these games and all that kind of stuff. And part of me, I'm sorry, like, well, damn, dude, are you really making it this hard on me? Like, damn, are you serious right now? Like, Indiana's got Mother Mary of the Blind, and I've got Ohio State in the week 2. Like, how does that work out? So, you have to factor that into the expectations. But when you start talking about what 8 or whatever that case may be, that tough schedule, and also know what the committee wants is hard waters to navigate.
Okay, 2 other things that we're not talking about, and some of that also depends. If Texas goes 8-4, what's A&M doing? What's Oklahoma doing? What's Lane Kiffin doing in year 1 at LSU? Mm-hmm. And like with Tom Herman, if you lose all momentum in recruiting, it's tough to get that turnaround. So, I mean, some of it obviously is the record, but some of it depends on what's going around in the places right around you too.
Yeah, and Jason, that's exactly what Mike sent us a little earlier. If Sark goes 8-4 and Oklahoma and A&M get into the playoffs and Texas doesn't, could get him cooked.
Again, that should say get into the playoffs again.
Yeah, again.
You didn't even mention Texas Tech. You glossed over them as well. But, I mean, they made it last year as well.
Those 2 and the double T in the playoffs. The double T had a bye in the playoffs last year. Like
Look how that worked for them.
Exactly. But Texas fans did not have that on their bingo card, obviously. ATX Bates, I see your super chat. We will get to some of those other chats as well. Also, let's thank some of our great partners. Get on out to the Deep Eddy Vodka tasting room. Maybe a good Valentine's idea, or just getting together with friends or family, and take advantage of some of this nice weather we've got in February. They've got some of that great outdoor seating. You'll be out there in the drip, looking over the Texas Hill Country and tasting that great Deep Eddy vodka. Go have a tasting. Make sure to have that barbecue. The Crimson Creek Smokehouse truck is right there on site. You order on your phone, walk right up to the front and get it when it's ready. It is a good time. Make sure you tell them you heard about it here on OB Live when you hit the Deep Eddy Vodka tasting room. All right, our man ATX Bates throwing us a buy or sell for $4.99. Thank you, Bates. 2026 ends in an SEC conference championship, and they make the CFP finals but lose. That meets your expectations. Buy or sell?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Absolute buy. Absolutely. Are you kidding, Bates? Come on.
Yeah, you go out, and I think even though you lose the championship, you go out.
That's basically saying you have to win a national championship, Bates. to me,
I think that actually accomplishes. I think that technically probably accomplishes every single goal that Sark would lay out for the season. That when it comes down to it, for our conference championship and for our national championship, we want to end the season with a chance to where it's not on anybody but us, and all we got to do is go out and win the football game. And then what more are you going to ask for than that?
And also, to me, that fills my blank for the bar. My bar for Texas pretty much moving forward is make the playoffs, live up to your seed. Under that scenario, if they won the SEC, they'd be a top 4 seed, and they would advance to the championship game. Check. You checked your box. You lived up to your seed. What did A&M and Oklahoma both do last year? They didn't live up to their seed. They got a home playoff game, and they lost. Was it a good season? Sure. But it wasn't hitting the bar. It wasn't a successful season in my estimation.
I kind of disagree
because no use case. I mean, certainly
they surpassed that preseason expectations.
If you're Venables, you kind of look at that and you say, like, man, I mean, like you can point at that last season and say, man, like I got us to the CFP. I feel like he was a guy that was on a little bit of a hot seat for me up there. I don't feel like he's on it anymore.
I don't think anybody at A&M getting a first round bye in a home playoff game. All right.
But once you get there, you didn't expect. So once they both got there, Jason, you took the pressure off and you said, they don't have to win.
No, but I'm just saying, no, of course not. But I don't look at those two seasons as they didn't meet expectations. They far surpassed preseason expectations. Now, did they live up to their seeding once they got there? No, but they had a hell of a season to get to those seedings that nobody thought they would get to. So.
Look at that. Look at Jason being nicer on the Aggies. And
I know.
I'm going to have to let that one just
house divided. What's going on here?
Let that one kind of mellow for a second. That is bizarre. But we got some really interesting chats coming in throughout the discussion, guys. And I think it's different for a lot of different people where Tej just throws natty or bust. I don't know what bust means. What does bust mean in that? Bust fire Sark, or bust you're just pissed off? Like, I don't know exactly what that means. But then our guy David Keith jumps in and he says there are no answers for injuries at critical positions, but with the talent and depth Texas has, not competing for a championship in 26 would really be a negative blow to Texas football.
But how do you quantify that? Texas was technically competing for a championship last year. And, so if they can say, well, we fell short of making the SEC championship game and we almost had an opportunity to make the playoffs, right? So, like, what do you quantify as that?
Because some people might say competing for a championship, Anwar, and they mean make the playoffs. Some people might say competing for a championship, like you got to make the game at the end. You can say that phrase.
That's
and it can
crazy. So by that logic, I mean, Ohio State failed last year. Oregon failed last year. Georgia failed last year. Alabama. I mean, I don't buy that logic. To me, if you make the playoffs, you're in the hunt. That's competing for a championship.
I'm with you. Yeah. I mean, a 12-team playoff and all the different things that can happen. A team like Miami and that defensive front can get on a run. And I mean, who the heck had them mashing Ohio State, right? They didn't beat Ohio State by that much. They smashed that team. And you're like, well, I didn't see that coming, but
But hey, this is the year, Chad, right, where Notre Dame gets the automatic berth if they're ranked in, what is it, the top 10?
12.
Top 12.
Yeah, as long as the committee puts them in 12 or better, they're in guaranteed.
So Notre Dame, that is top 12, they're in, and G5. So that's basically leaving 10 real spots available to make the playoffs.
And if you're Texas, it's really technically less because it's Notre Dame. It's 1 G6. The ACC champ has to be in. The Big Ten champ has to be in. The Big 12 champ has to be in. That's 5 spots. So if you're Texas, the SEC title's still out there for you, but you basically have 7 other spots you could get at that point. So when we say 12-team playoff, it's true, but it's also when you really dig in, it's like, well, it's not really 12 spots. It's Texas, Alabama, Georgia, and all the rest. They're going to fight over 7 spots in the scenario you just laid out, Anwar. 7 spots available, assuming Notre Dame is good. That's kind of
with their schedule. They are. So, yeah. I mean, the road gets tougher. Tougher.
It does. It gets really bizarre as we go into 2026, adding the pressure that we're kind of discussing.
Notre Dame is such bullshit, by the way.
It is. For $5, what are the odds that Arch breaks Colt's oh, here we go. Passing yards record of 38.59. If he does that mean Texas is in the CFP? I would think so. If he gets up to almost 3,900 yards, sure. I thought Escalon was going to go after the Colt completion record. That's going to be tough to go get. That was up in the 78 range, I want to say. That year was it 08 when Colt had the 78% completion, something like that?
That means Arch has to, and that's just regular season, right?
I think that's right. Yeah. Well, I mean, at college now you get everything, don't you? Don't you get every game?
I don't know. I mean, 300 and that would be 320 yards a game if it's just regular season.
Yeah, I think they give you the playoff stuff too. I think they give you all.
Yeah, but you couldn't compare the play. Well, you couldn't. I mean, he would. Yeah, he would. I think that if Texas goes and Texas gets to play 16 games or however many, but like that's well within. Yeah, that's well within. I mean, how many did Colt have to play that year? 13 games.
Yeah, that's true. The number, like Arch's number last year was around 31. To me, the number this year is like a 35. 3,500 is what I'm wondering about with Arch.
It's just hard to say. It's like you almost have to frame any if you were doing a serious projection here, and I'm going to say that I think there's a 25% chance to be able to have a serious conversation of it. You have to frame it as in like, okay, well, what kind of projection are we talking here? Are we talking 14 games, 13? We talk like how many games are we talking?
Right. No, that's fair. That is fair. Esrone, thank you for that $5 super chat. If you guys want to throw us a super chat, feel free. We will jump into those. Also, shout out to Specs for bringing us the chats and the super chats. Valentine's Day is coming up. They've got something for you. They got a lot of something for you.
With hundreds of wines on sale, Specs is turning these aisles into the ultimate love story.
Uncork something special during Specs' huge wine sale, going on now. Specs, the fun starts here.
Specs, if you're looking for that bottle of wine, get the Specs app on your phone. You might be able to get it delivered right to you.
I just realized you said that. Valentine's Day is this weekend. Wow.
On a Saturday.
I haven't put a second of thought into that. So.
On a Saturday. Gentlemen, Saturday, Valentine's Day. If you need a reservation, get on that. It's Tuesday, so get it fixed.
Jason hitting up HEB on Saturday morning trying to get it.
Thankfully, my wife is not a girly girl. She doesn't do Valentine's Day. Like, we'll give a card or something. That's about it. And then we're taking vacation like late next week, so that'll be her Valentine's present.
So in other words, you lowered the standards really early in your relationship.
That's what I tell my son. My son has a girlfriend, and dude, he goes crazy. I said, Zach, you're setting a really high bar that you're gonna have to keep up.
Or it's a great way to say it. I lowered the expectations right away when I met my wife. The agreement was we lived in different towns. Whoever drove to the first date, the other one paid. She agreed. I drove to her town. She paid for the first date. And I made a mental note right then. I'm like, aha.
That's love.
My wife's the same one, Anwar, who's forgotten our anniversary. Isn't that something men usually do? Like she's totally forgotten our anniversary. And I don't really care, but I do hold it over her head sometimes.
Oh, Jason, I wish after all this time, I dream of my wife forgetting because then I get to remind her for a few months.
Remember that time? Yeah.
Do you guys have like separate beds like I Love Lucy or something?
No, we're not there yet, but maybe it's some days.
Okay.
She had her wish, probably so. Anwar.
Don't give her any ideas, Anwar. Don't give her any ideas. She might take that. That is fantastic. All right. What is this one? This is back to that number. Somebody breaking it down. If Arch hits 38.59, it essentially means he most likely played more than 12 games, which means they made the playoffs. I would think so.
Sure. Well, even if you make the SEC championship, that's 13. But if you make the SEC championship, you're probably in the playoffs, right? So,
you probably need more than the SEC. I mean, dude, Camp Coleman's an alien. But he's got. I mean, even if you go 13 games, you got to go for 300 on the dot basically every single game. Yeah,
that's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, Fernando Mendoza finished with 35 actually. This season. So
I think it was it this show last week, Anwar, where you pointed out one quarterback hit $4,000 last year?
It
was Drew Mestamaker, I think he said.
Just Mestamaker.
Yeah. Alex knew him. I was shocked.
It's a different version.
Where did he transfer to?
Oklahoma State.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah, follow the coach, right? Because Morris is going to Oklahoma State, and he is too. Sailor Joe says, "Natty or bust is the dumbest thing I hear fans say. Like, no shit, Sherlock, but what you get is what you get." Yeah, that's a dangerous phrase, man.
I just think that the natty part is okay. Let's just slow down. This team needs to get back to the playoffs. It's like I know we'll go to try every off season. The expectations hit the reset button, and so everyone forgets about everything. And by the time spring hits, everyone's hype, and then by the time we get to August, all these expectations are through the roof. This team's got to get back to the playoffs. Just get to the playoffs first. Don't even talk about Natty. I love Arch and 4,000 yards and Heisman's and all that type of stuff. Like, dude, this is a team that missed the playoffs, that lost to Florida last year, that, still had troubles with Georgia and everything. Like, there's some things that, there's some crawling before we walk here. And Texas has to reestablish themselves. And Jason, as he nods his head, they have to reestablish themselves before we start talking about all these grand
Especially
things.
With this schedule, Anwar. Hey, just get in the playoffs with this schedule, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, it is. It's Ohio State in week 2, followed by LSU is on the road, Tennessee is on the road, A&M is on the road.
They're going to make that LSU game at night too.
Of course,
LSU will be a nighter. Missouri's a road game, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Missouri's a road game as
what
well.
What is LSU's record at night at home? You probably know
like
better.
1,000,002, I think it's
And they did good in the transfer portal too, Alex. So they're going to have a good team.
Yeah,
Ole Miss will be tough. Oklahoma, obviously, we didn't mention. That's going to be a tough game again. So, yeah.
And then
they still got Florida on the schedule.
Florida, right? That's true. Florida, it's Florida. It'll be Florida back in Austin this year.
In Austin.
Yeah, back here.
Yeah. But the other thing, guys, the combo, Anwar's pointed it out. The year that the SEC says you have to play 9 is the year college football says you don't get 2 bye weeks anymore. It's gone. Texas has to get an early bye week and then go 8 straight to finish the season. So every team's got to take a look at that part too. By contrast, the Aggies don't have a bye till Halloween. So the Aggies have to come in and play 8.
Dude, I haven't looked into I haven't done any serious looking into this whole thing about getting rid of the 2 bye weeks. Are they compressing the season? I haven't even really looked into this. Like, why does
not really, Alex? Because I think the championship is the 23rd or 24th.
So does Thanksgiving come early this year?
Maybe that's it. I honestly,
A&M game's the 27th, so Thanksgiving will be the 26th.
To me, the calendar looks just like a year ago. I think there's an obvious – they could start on that August 29th, 30th, whatever that weekend is, and do the same thing with 2 buys. But for some reason, they did not. Everybody gets
what?
one.
They started a week – I'm looking. They started August 30th last year, that Ohio State game. This year they start September 5th. So they're starting a week later.
No.
Exactly.
I remember thinking it felt more like – it felt more like the start date of the NFL next season in college football that the NFL was this year, which was a week later.
I
So
think I can speak for all of us. Is like, oh, I'm going to miss that second bye week, right? So
Hallelujah. From the work perspective, from the fan perspective, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why I'm going to miss it, Jason. I totally agree with you. And we got to just see how everybody deals with that. Let's also throw in.
But Big Chet at 15 in the chat saying the bye week thing has to do with the quirk and the actual calendar that happens once every 4 or 5 years. So does that mean that this is just a 1 year blip with the one bye week and they're going back to 2 next year?
I hope so, Big Cheddar. Whatever you're talking about, I'm not sure exactly what you're referencing, but I hope it's a 1 year thing because the 2 buys made a lot of sense. And let's also remember, ACC's going to 9 games. So the 2 conferences that were sitting at 8, both have agreed to go to 9, and now you're giving everybody 1 less bye week than they had. So just something to keep
Texas last year, August 30th, ended their regular season November 28th. This year it's September 5th, so a week later, ending November 27th. So pretty much the same thing. If they would start like August 29th or something, they would have had the 2 bye weeks, but they're just starting a little bit later. So.
I do not understand it. I do not understand why they aren't doing it. All right, I got one more chat we can grab here before we do that. One more of our partners to thank. Let's talk about the screens and the TVs and all that at AV Consultations. Super Bowl Sunday last week, and I've talked about it. If you went and saw a big old screen and you need to get one of those in your house, this is the place that can do it. They've been doing it for years and years. How about 88? All the way back to 1988. They've been doing this. Locally owned and operated. Let them handle every detail. Let them buy the TV. Let them buy the speakers and the cords and all the cables and the furniture and set everything up for you and get you that dream setup. So when you host Super Bowl 61, everybody's going to want to have your new TV. avconsultations.com or call 255-8678. Tell them that you heard about it here on OB Live. When you do, we hope everybody enjoyed the Super Bowl. And again, congrats to Mr. Diggs, Mr. Murphy, and Mr. Dixon, who all got rings. Michael Dixon.
Hey, so speaking of the Super Bowl, so next year they're saying the Super Bowl falls on Valentine's, which is weird. Do you think that the NFL opening kick is not going to come until now September 13th? And
Maybe.
That's why their Super Bowls moved back a week?
I hadn't seen the beginning of the season yet, Alex, but maybe. My wife mentioned that to me. And the other thing my wife mentioned is if she saw it right, President's Day is actually the 15th.
Yeah,
so
it's the following day. Yeah.
If you've always dreamed of the day after the Super Bowl off, a lot of people are going to get it next year.
Yeah. This was going to be weird. Well, it won't, dude. By the time we get to SEC Media Days, that'll be like July 20th. That'll mean that we're back on to football. So, I mean, that'll feel like football started. But gosh, that's mid-September feels like a long time to wait for NFL. Feels like a long time to wait until the 6th or whatever for college football to kick off. But I guess we do have the week 0 is going to be the 28th of August, and that apparently is going to have some. Looks like that'll have some good games. They have another one of those Dublin, Ireland games. Belichick's going to be going over there, I guess.
Is there a game or two on the 29th? They are letting somebody play. That's good.
Yeah, no, I saw them and I was like, man, those seem kind of okay. So by then we'll be crawling over. We'll be crawling over glass to watch Pee Wee football. But right.
It's always like that. I always love that first quarter of NFL preseason football that I watch. I love so much. Every quarter after that, I don't. But that first one, oh my God, I love watching it. And then I realize, oh yeah, it's preseason. I don't need to watch it anymore. But it is always something to enjoy. One last chat here on the discussion of Sark. ROI, fellas. Sark has been given everything he's asked for. It's on him and this coaching staff to elevate their coaching and, at the very least, make it to the finals.
Oh my God.
Wow. Now that's a bar.
Well, we get to see where the fan base is. It's like that's what we do these shows every single day. We talk on the boards every single day. You get to see where the fan base is, man. They're all over the place. We talk about it's funny. We talk about the bar. We talk about the expectation. We talk about the ceiling and the floor and everything else like that. Ultimately, we just talk about it. Like Ketch says, we're just here to kind of, we're here to provide information and in some ways to entertain. it's gonna be the fan base and it's gonna be the stakeholders of the program that eventually that stuff filters up to CDC, who's gonna make the decision about that. But you get an idea that it's a Longhorn fans are a disparate group, man. They're definitely are prone to having differences of opinion. I don't think that that's going to be I don't think that the sentiment's going to have to be that you have to get to the finals, but who knows?
I would hope not. Longhorn fans, be thinking about where you may put the floor for 2026. I feel like we might have landed in that 8-4 range. You can let us know what you think about that in the comment section on the videos. We appreciate you guys engaging with us there. Like, subscribe, get your notifications. Check out the YouTube channel, of course, if you have not. Check out orangebloods.com if you have not. Get signed up as soon as you can. You will never leave. Thank you all for jumping in, and thank you for supporting us here. We'll be back next Tuesday at noon for another modcast on Orange Bloods Live. See ya.